My next patron question is from Tony, who wants to know about the conflicting stances on remakes. Why is it that when it comes to remakes, it's almost damned if you do, damned if you don't? Because most people hate remakes and think that's going to harm their childhood nostalgia of the original. But why is it when they see something completely new and different, people complain, and when they do a shot-for-shot remake of the original, people complain as well? Is it just one of those weird things where you really cannot satisfy anyone when you're doing a remake? I have noticed this general animosity towards remakes, regardless of the approach taken by the filmmakers. It's more obvious when people talk about the recent Disney remakes, but it fits other type of remakes as well. For me, I feel the main reason someone would want to do a remake is to put their own spin on the story, although you have cases where they just follow the script of the earlier movie, and that's not as interesting to me. People also seem to think remakes are a recent trend, but a lot of beloved classic movies are remakes, and they might not be aware. For example, Some Like It Hot, which is generally regarded as one of the best comedies ever, is a remake. Part of the reason this is not well known is because the original French film, Fanfare of Love, has largely fallen into obscurity. It was even obscure when Some Like It Hot was made. Billy Wilder wanted to remake it, but was unable to find a copy of the movie to rewatch or get a hold of the script. It just so happened there was a German language remake, so he used that as a basis instead. Alfred Hitchcock's The Man Who Knew Too Much is another interesting case. He remade his own movie but did not want to do an exact copy of what he'd done before, so he just told the screenwriter the basic gist of the plot without letting him watch the original. You also have remakes that are based on movies that maybe are not the most highly regarded, so the filmmakers are not as beholden to what came before. A lot of people really like Steven Soderbergh's remake of Ocean's 11, thanks to its sleek direction, fun heist plot, and the charming chemistry between the actors. But how many of them have given the original film from 1960 a look? Well, it's not very exciting and mostly feels like an excuse for the Rat Pack to hang out together and get paid for it. There are also those directors who have a genuine adoration for the original film and want to bring to life their own ideas that have run through their heads while they've watched it, along with paying homage to it. Peter Jackson's favorite movie is King Kong, and for a long time he wanted to do his own version of it that captured exactly what he found so inspirational about it. He was finally able to do that in 2005, and his approach was to expand the story and the depiction of Skull Island and add new elements to characters like Ann Darrow, the determined director Carl Denham, and the big gorilla himself. What he made was a film that is generally well regarded by fans of the original and is able to stand alongside that classic. As I've mentioned before, I'm not big on shot-for-shot remakes, because if you're just going to do the exact same movie again, I might as well watch the original. I think Gus Van Sant's Psycho highlights the issue of this. It was basically an experiment to see what would happen if you took the same script, recreated the same shots, and had the actors say the same lines. Could this still work? And the answer is no. Even though Van Sant is copying exactly what Alfred Hitchcock did for the most part, it's missing a lot of the suspense and style that Hitchcock brought to his version of Psycho. Another interesting example that I often think of is Richard Linklater's remake of Bad News Bears. That movie uses pretty much the same script as the original, but slightly sanded off the edges a bit. So instead of Coach Buttermaker giving the children beer in one scene, he gives them non-alcoholic beer. And then in one of the few altered lines, one of them asks, non-alcoholic, so what's the point? Which perfectly summed up my own reaction to that remake. I do find an exception to often be when a film from one country is remade in another. Gore Verbinski's The Ring follows the Japanese film fairly closely, and I think it's a great remake. And to use another remake of a Japanese horror film, I also remember liking Walter Salz's take on Dark Water. But I think part of the reason is because there's at least a cultural difference that can be explored when you translate a film to a different country, and they have to make those alterations to accommodate the new setting and nationality of the characters. Now, of course, when you change a lot in a remake, that does seem to upset people. I personally think it's interesting to see how a filmmaker might approach a story differently while also taking into account the change in time between when the original was made and the remake. Sometimes there can be some baffling choices made, but that usually has to do with the execution and how the characters are written rather than necessarily because something was altered. For example, a remake I really did not like was Rob Zombie's Halloween. That one is a contentious remake, with many not liking Zombie giving an elaborate backstory to Michael Myers and making it more of a conventional violent slasher film. However, for me, my main issue was I just found the whole thing obnoxious, like the depictions of many of the characters and the constant shaky cam. Meanwhile, I quite like Zack Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead, which fans of the original tend to have mixed feelings about. The biggest debate seems to be the use of fast zombies as opposed to the slow zombies in the original film. I personally think both types of zombies have merit, and each respective film showcases how it can be scary to be surrounded by them. Snyder's direction also fits his and James Gunn's interpretation of the story. A few years ago, I did a video naming my top 10 remakes. So as you can see, I think remakes deserve more credit than they get. Like any other movie, it depends on the execution, and in my particular case, seeing what different approach the director and screenwriters might take with the story. But if you're someone who falls into the camp of preferring the remake be as faithful as possible, that's an acceptable point of view too. Remakes can be tricky to pull off since they depend on satisfying viewers who are coming at it with different attachments to the original film and looking at it from that perspective. Thank you for your question, Tony.